So, I want to go across something that I've been seeing for a few months. Let's just say, well, actually, really about 2 years, almost 3 years. But, oh, this is going to be a deep topic in one direction, and it's going to be sounding shallow in another. Okay, so I watch some Ukrainian YouTubers that live in Ukraine, or some of them that live outside of Ukraine, and they have a very, what I would consider a box view, a boxed personality view of how they look at geopolitics, how they look at history. They look at history one-dimensionally, not in 2 or 3 or 4 dimensions, or any possible other alternative dimensions. And basically, it kind of annoys me, and it's actually strange to me, because I would often think that these people would not have a large audience or a large voice. But yet, because it's a pretty girl and it's a cute face, it has a large audience and a large following. And because, well, men are men, and they will do anything to get platitude or gratitude, just like that. And if you say something sweet, it can be horrible in imagination, but it can sound so sweet at the same time. But regardless is this. There is a YouTuber, Anna, in Ukraine, and there's a few others that I think have a distorted view of reality. And I don't know whether it's purpose or whether it's not on purpose. Whether they're doing it out of ignorance or they're doing it out of just for the views, for the clicks, for nationalism, for bloodlust. Call it what you want. Don't know the motivation. But I see something very sick in the nature. And when I mean sick, I think of it like this. I see a woman, or there's quite a few. I'm not going to name it the one. Let's say a few thousand women. I've seen quite a few thousand women around Ukraine. It's like they have abandoned their feminine, nurturing, protective characteristic. And they've basically become men. They will look like a woman, wear heels like a woman, do all of that. But in their mind, they're making decisions. And they make decisions exactly how a man does it. And it's kind of strange. For some guys, it feels like a man in a woman's body dominating over you, and you go, who the hell are you? I didn't ask you to do this. And basically, it's kind of like my reaction is I kind of go like, yeah, no. And I back off of it because I don't want to deal with it. Because I don't want to waste time on it. But going back to Anna in Ukraine, I've seen at least 5 videos, and she's making videos daily and weekly. And all she talks about is how that Ukraine must have its vengeance. Ukraine must have its bloodlust. And Ukraine must destabilize Russia or defang Russia. She actually was using the word demilitarize Russia. But here's the problem. I know this is propaganda and or it's rage and emotion. Probably a mix of all three. But at the end of the day, this is what bothers me the most. Is one, it comes from a woman. It doesn't come from a man. It makes perfect sense if it comes from a man. If I was to say it out of rage and anger, it would make sense. But it doesn't make sense coming out of a woman. Besides the emotional part of women, it doesn't make sense. It's as if she has lost her nurturing femininity. And what's really strange is there is Americans and men on her YouTube channel, and they're commenting like sycophants to her channel and to her YouTube. There's a few other YouTube women doing this too. But what can I say? For the people, for the Ukrainians, some may be my friends, some may not be, that have this idea, from my view, which is very blind, it's one-dimensional, that, as Anna would say, we must escape Ruski Mir, or Russian living space, or Russian reality, okay? I get it. You want to declare independence. I get it. But here's the problem. By Ukraine jumping into bed with NATO, jumping into bed with the European Union, jumping into bed with anything, with America, let's say it was Guatemala. You know, the problem is this. When you jump into bed with someone, when you get involved with something that is larger than yourself, whether it's one person, a country, a region, or whatever, you have to understand something. You're gonna surrender your traditions. You're going to surrender your lifestyle. You are going to, over decades, rewrite your history because other people from other nations, from other places, are going to tell you, your children, your grandchildren, or your great-grandchildren that you Ukrainians, have got it wrong. And what's really funny is these propaganda girls, or these emotional girls that have lost their femininity, and they're like, we gotta be in NATO, we gotta be in the European Union. They have lost their directional self. And when you just want to be dependent on a system, any system that was the former not system that you were formerly in, I'm sorry, but there's something wrong in your mind. Because instead of having your own independence, instead of creating stuff for your own, instead of owning the land in which you live in, instead of having it all for yourself, you want to then put your authority of your country into another country, or geopolitical entity to decide what should happen in your country. And if you don't think that would happen, and if you think that, well, no, everyone in the European Union or America has noble and the most cleanest, most beautiful, most noble and exquisite great intentions, you're fucking naive. And I'm sorry to tell you that. But you have the mentality of a 5-year-old, if not a 10-year-old, in your understanding of life, understanding of trust, understanding of relationships or communication. That's how inexperienced these YouTubers that are blindly saying, well, we left this group, let's go to that group, without asking any questions, without saying, no, you cannot do this with us, and no, we got away from these people for those reasons, and no, you cannot do that. You know, the biggest consequence to me is if Ukraine joins the European Union, is the acceptance of gay marriage, the acceptance of transsexuals, the acceptance that Ukraine should be less religious. How many Ukrainians are gonna want to be told, and be told again and again and again, that they are just a backwards people that don't understand that religion is for stupid people? These people exist in America, and these people exist in the European Union. They love power, and my God, there's Ukrainians that just want to give their power away to someone else. And when it's too late, and when there's papers and declarations to sign by the politicians of Ukraine, namely, you know what? It's going to be too late for Ukrainians as a people, because their politicians will have sold them up a river and lied to them, and they will have manipulated their own people and their politicians. And I'm going to be really honest in my opinion. Any politician in Ukraine that is too pro-America, and I mean too pro-America, or too pro-European Union, is probably somehow getting paid or bought off, just how politicians in America are bought off by the corporations and or anything else in order to get the lobbyists. The lobbyists pay the politicians in order to get them to vote the right way or to make laws the right way in America. Okay? And you know, the thing, I'm just shooting this out there into the void. The thing that baffles me is the blind trust that Ukrainians have in thinking that there's nothing bad in America, that there's nothing bad in the European Union, that there's nothing bad. It's blind trust. And when you trust blindly, other than marriage, when you trust blindly like that, you invite problems. You invite chaos, because there's a whole black area that you don't know, and at the same time, that black area can destroy, damage, affect people's lives. And when it's done so blindly, so undelicately, and all of these aid groups that come here with their ideas of how they're going to help Ukraine, or my honest opinion, how they're going to re-educate younger Ukrainians to hate their culture, and that they should worship the new great European Union culture, or the new great hit song by Eminem, or whatever rap star there is, or whatever thing in the USA. I already see this happening because I always have the conversation with younger Ukrainians. Oh, why would you think this? Why would you think that? That's something from trash in America. No, no, no. It's the best thing from America. It's the lowest form of education in the USA. It's the stupidest shit. And I'm sorry to be a little bit having profanity, but the one that is saying the sweetest things to you in politics and everything, that don't worry baby, everything will be all right, is the one that's gonna stab you directly in the back, and it's gonna hurt, and it's gonna be traumatic. The one that is more realistic and saying, I can agree with you here, but disagree with you here, and agree with you here, that is more honest and direct than the one saying, don't worry, we're always with you, we're always with you, we stand with you. Oh, our words are so powerful. You see, your anxiety is calming. Don't you understand your anxiety? And, it's just one of them things. And, I can speak from this in some way. I have a handicap. Keep in mind, I have a handicap. If I listened to everyone that told me that I would be nothing and be doing nothing with my life, some people within my own family, namely, except a few people that were the other, it was the minority that was on my side, not the majority, the minority. If I would have listened to the majority, I would have never came to Ukraine. I would have never lived the life that I lived. I would have never had the experiences that I never had. And I got into fights. I defended what I believed. I was passionate, and I fought hard for what I want and what I think. And no one will take that away from me. Why don't Ukrainians think that way? Why don't Ukrainians think that they don't need the European Union? They don't need NATO. They don't need Russia. They don't need Belarus. Just say, F off. Screw off. All of you countries. You invaded us all once. Why should we trust you? Why don't Ukrainians think that way? Why don't Ukrainians think deeply into the fact that they've been betrayed? One way, another way, this way, that way, whatever way, and everything else. You only need yourself to rely on in order to get ahead. If you can be self-reliant, then you can go somewhere. But when you're depending on everything, on some system, some money, some international system, some debt that, I'm telling you, they're gonna really crash the grivna one day. I'm serious. They're gonna crash the grivna. It's gonna be Not a bad day for foreigners, but it's going to be a shit day for Ukrainians. And I see it. The reason why I see it is I came to this country when it was $1 to 25 grivna. Now it's $1 to 41 grivna. And it's just going up. It's going up. And these decisions are not made by the Ukrainian government. It's made by financiers and banks in the financial sectors in London and in New York. It's made by those people. Those people decide the power, the purchasing power, or the inflation that is caused within Ukraine. And that the politicians don't have as much power. They have some power, but not all the power. But regardless is there's so many people, from my view, that want to do harm to Ukraine. They will rape it financially. They will rape it through its minerals or ore or anything that's under the ground, oil, whatever. Anything that Ukraine has. There's all of these charlatans that will do harm to Ukraine. And then too, there's also foreign men. I'm a foreign man. There's foreign men. I'm telling you, they will say anything to a Ukrainian girl to get with her, to twist her head around and to make her think one thing or another and say, don't worry, I'm so rich, you don't even understand, I'm so rich. I've heard it so many times, and so many Ukrainian girls fall for the idiots, for the men that can't get anyone in their home country. And they fall for all of these beautiful words, for all of these beautiful lines. They never look at the man's action. And, it's really bad. It's really bad. And then, I can understand how a woman can be traumatized to an extent. Her trust is broken. And, it's a sad reality in that way. It's a real sad reality. But that's my view. What would I know? I only lived in Ukraine 6 years and about 10 months back in the U.S. in the past 6 years. Almost 7 years. April 2025 will be 7 years. But what would I know? Just my thoughts.